Hey, welcome to my video. I'm Jennifer Roberts and this is True Divine 4-4, and I appreciate you all being here, listening, taking part, leaving comments, and of course liking and sharing. They are very much appreciated. So this is a writing on the wall. I'm going to see where I go with this, and I didn't do it live so that I could just discuss it along the lines with myself and hope that you get something out of it. So Tesla comes in and out for me. Just the visions surrounding him and his work. What I feel are connections, what I feel are messages when I can really hook in. And there's so much there to unpack and so much there that is even out of the scope of me ever understanding regarding, you know, the intelligence level that it would take to understanding all of that kind of work that he did. And it's sort of sometimes along the lines, a lot of other visions come in and I realize some way, somehow he was a part of that, or he was a part of the excitement of discovering that, or being brought into knowing of that. And so the 369 thing really fits for me because I look across all of the ancient esoteric knowledge, and the 3, 6, and 9 are so important as to the creation, as to the balance, and then to the entry into other times, spaces, planes, however they're described on any given piece of knowledge, piece of wisdom. So that really rings true to me, and I see it reflected in Yggdrasil. I see it reflected in the 9 realms there that are involved there, and it really does do something for me. I would find it hard to quantify it or explain it in a scientific manner as he could, but I understand it, I can feel it, I know that it works. And so this has come in over and over, as I say. And so with that being said, I went along the lines of, and Wayne confirmed it for me that I was onto something when he, I think it was a couple of nights ago, he did a video and he mentioned something that he's mentioned before, the difference, what came in when the internet bloomed, when the World Wide Web bloomed. And web is such an interesting word to me. You know, the spider's web sort of captures things, doesn't it? It encapsulates things. You get stuck in it. You get embroiled in it. So he confirmed this train of thought that had been coming in, a train of knowing consciousness that had been coming in for a few days beforehand, that is built again on earlier knowings, visions, whatever they might be. And so there's something about this never-ending, you know, if we look at the term as above, so below, as within, so without, that is said so often, and I keep getting different layers of inner standings of that. And I realize why that is such a intelligent and beautiful term for the never-ending questions and the never-ending potentials of answers. Because, you know, what is above, what is within, what is below, what is without, for all we know, the size of us humans, you know, is never ending, you know, because what's above that? Okay, what's below that? You know, what more can I dig into of myself? What other aspect of strength can I grab onto? And what other aspect of fear can I harness into passion? You know, there's the endless possibilities. And so that term for me keeps growing and keeps evolving as far as my wisdom, knowledge, and knowings evolve. And so this never-ending war that we see here is, it seems to be, to me, and this is without ego, because I think there's far too much ego, and we're humans, you know, we're British, we could take over the world, that kind of term. But it seems to be that there is something or some things, maybe it is the soul, the type of consciousness that we have. Or maybe it is just that we were very useful and very, we were made of from a great innovation a long, long time ago, that, you know, we gained interest from other gods, what you would call gods, other goddesses, what you would call goddesses, other beings, what you would maybe sometimes call alien beings. In that, you know, something, when you have structures of power maybe that are seemingly far more capable in tech, in what we would call tech, in the use of biological tech, I suppose would be the best term I could come up with. Power is obviously within the fractions of all of these things, especially the gods and goddesses and whatever umbrella term that would be and what would come under that. You know, you want what the other person has made, that maybe we are the non-biological, or maybe we are the finishing result of non-biological. Maybe it's very rare in this universe anyway, that you know, life looks like a bear, or looks like a rabbit, or looks like a human. So maybe with the innovation of those things leading up to the innovation of a human, maybe at this point, you know, we become interesting to things that maybe are far, far different from us, as in far, far different types of life. And, you know, for those beings that have these greater capabilities, it seems, for those to look upon an innovation, whoever was the, you know, great innovator, the Anunnaki or whatever else, of the finished animal, so to speak, with what we call biological matter, what we call nature. Maybe the cultivation of this realm, and then the ultimate cultivation of a human. And maybe we captured the consciousness of this realm, and maybe we fractured off from that to make these lines of these generations, these DNA strands of you know, offspring of ancestors. When you get a power-hungry child, and that child sees another child totally absorbed and in the game that they're playing, with these fun characters that they're playing, you know, that the power-hungry child, the bully, so to speak, wants to have those characters. It wants to have those toys that are those characters that can seemingly do something different, even if it is deemed as less than. The whole consciousness thing, you know, that seems very special to us, and it seems to be our ultimate power outside of this meat suit. So I figure sometimes that this has been a long-standing war over toys that can do things maybe that others can't with the consciousness, but are ultimately toys that have been fought over, that we've been sort of on the brunt end, piggy in the middle of warring fractions. And it seems with the powers that be, that shouldn't be, it seems that whatever they are, whatever beings are puppeting them, for me it's always been a hijack of a better time. Whether that's because there was nobody fighting over us at all. I don't know quite how long standing this hijack has been. I know it's been a long time. But there's something about, and they've actually studied this, a part of the brain in some people, exaggerated more in some than others, that actually is the place that, the God gene, the God place, where it gets excited about indoctrination and religions and the mention of God and Savior and whatnot. And in these studies, of course, they call those people extremists. I find it funny that religious people virtue signal about, how right they are, and usually back the science as well, especially the Christians. And then the very scientists they're backing right now would say they are the extremists, because this place in the brain lights up, like a Christmas tree when it hears the name of God. And so maybe that is a part of the reason that this seemingly never-ending war and this long-standing hijack of us has taken place. Maybe it was a weakness that has been or just a part of us that has been used as a weakness and manipulated as a weakness to be. It was discovered maybe that, this very special life form could be weakened enough to believe and worship things above itself. Maybe that weakness doesn't really, or just isn't the same as other beings, that they don't have that part of them. So maybe it was well worth picking the fight, maybe it was well worth fighting over, to be able to harvest energy, resources, whatever it might be. So you can see I've dipped and dived in all directions on this train of thought. So, but at the end of the day, I look at humans and I look at what I see, and for better or worse, we are great innovators. We innovate things, we design and conceptualize things. And these things are so diverse. Even the types of buildings are so diverse. The architecture that I see in Newcastle is amazing. I'm not so keen on the more modern stuff, but I look at it and still think, amazing. And so the more we innovate, the more we create, maybe it's the more windows and doors we open, and maybe why everything's so batshit crazy and confused. Maybe along the way with all of this innovation, we've opened windows and doors that weren't meant to be opened or shouldn't have been opened up without knowledge of ourselves, knowing thyself. And so if we, you know, are the absolute embodiment of innovation, but we've kept innovating excitedly while not keeping a rooted wisdom and knowledge of ourselves and where we're from and what we're capable of, then we're worth fighting over, because we'll still keep creating, we'll still keep innovating. A power that was above us, a manager who has a good creator, innovator below them and doesn't pay them half as much as they deserve. That's bunny rabbit, sorry. Half as much as they think, it was a bulldog, wouldn't you? As half as much as they deserve, you know, but that manager sees that skill. And maybe let's say, for instance, for this story's sake, the person below that manager is a real good person, is a real loving person, caring person, and wouldn't dream of innovating anything that would harm others. And we know things can have multi-purposes, you know, and so we know that something that can be used for good can be then turned to a different dial, a different setting, and then be used for harm. The manager above them might have that reasoning behind it for harm, the wanting of it for harm. But ultimately, all they have to do is keep that to one side, to not let that be known to the person working below them, to ask them to create this something or something along the lines of this. The person below might quite happily create something, one, never knowing the value of it, therefore still accepting the very low wage or salary, or two, never dreaming that anybody would even think of using something like this, whatever this is that they're creating, for harm. So it would be very easy, without wisdom and knowledge of that person's worth and capabilities that is under this more nefarious manager, then, you know, it would be very easy for them to be fooled into just happily creating because it's their passion, because it's what they love doing, because it's what they're good at. So we would be worth having then, and we would be worth fighting over and keeping then. And then I look at like the likes of the royal families and the, you know, the 13 bloodlines, and I see that they work really carefully to make sure the right sperm keeps meeting the right egg, and to keep it in line, to not have too much dilution of this group of managers at the top with very malevolent hearts, but not really hearts. Something beating, but not what we would describe as a heart. It would be very worthwhile then, you know, that makes sense to me, why they would not want to dilute that line, why they would want to make sure they could keep jumping in consciousnesses to the next child to be born. So we have kept innovating, and these power structures that work so hard to keep a hold of us have continued to use our innovation to build up systems that have imprisoned us more and more and more, to make history loops happen, to make cycles happen again and again and again by literally having a London's burning moment and burning down the real history and starting again with a very few on the planet, on this realm, on this plane, whatever it might be. So that again, the wisdom and knowledge isn't passed down. So more and more as we go along those lines, innovating the very things that keep us prisoner and the very things that keep us enslaved, and being tricked into thinking they're for good. You know, the police system, it's for good, it's not for harm. The medical system, it's for good, it's not for harm. Well, continuously having bushfires to burn down the real wisdom and knowledge of like the likes of our ancestors and their knowledge of holistic medicine, their knowledge of consciousness, their knowledge of what this consciousness is capable of doing, even while being within this particular meat suit. So you can see why it would be worth keeping us. Once you've fought over something that you've hijacked, that you've stolen, it's like that child story again, you know, the bully, powerful, power-hungry child against the child that's just totally encapsulated and creating and innovating a story around these characters. At that point, if a mommy comes along and says, no, you don't, give those characters back, give those toys back, that child digs its heels in something rotten, because how dare you take something back that it's taken the effort to steal? That takes me along the lines of these hijackers, these beings, probably having a lot of enemies. Because in order to keep us for so long under this particular loop or whatever it is, they've probably had to do some pretty bad shit to others that maybe wanted to come in for better reasons, that maybe wanted to give us the knowledge back, that maybe wanted to say, look, from our position in the universe, we actually have a better view, or maybe we're from a place that is Akashic record style. We absorb the nutrients of knowledge and wisdom, and it's kept here. So we've sort of witnessed, you know, what you were and what you are. Whatever. That's for instance. So, but we do keep letting in, I feel, more and more power structures. That is not to say that all of these power structures are nefarious. That is not to say that they're all bad. But the ruling characters that keep being able to quickly, because of the systems that we've innovated and built up, they quickly keep being able to swoop in and monopolize what we invite in, even the good as well as the bad, and traps us more. And maybe it entraps, you know, other benevolent beings that have come here because we've somehow, some way, at some point hooked into a frequency that attracted them here, or opened a gate, opened a portal for them to be here. Maybe they never dreamed for 1 minute that once they got through said portal, that portal might shut and they might not get out either. Maybe that's why there's quite a diverse level of beings here and DNA lines here. I hope this is making sense, because this is a ramble. But what came in for me, and then Wayne confirmed it when he mentioned the internet again a few days later, was that each time there is this innovation, we assimilate to it. And so we are getting more and more varied, but because the innovation is so good and it's restricted by the powers that be, the full wisdom behind it as to how we know how to create these things. It's like amnesia. It's coming forward somehow, but it's, not apparent as to where from, for very few people anyway. Then this power structure can absorb it and suck it back up and keep control over it. So utilize it, but keep control over it. And so I felt about Tesla that he knew, and he was very much into the occult. He was very much into the hidden esoteric knowledge, as well as what we would say physical knowledge, scientific knowledge. He excitedly, with electricity in particular, opened a door, the same kind of door, similar door that Wayne was describing on his channel, or Wayne Steiger. You should look him up if you haven't already. So opened a doorway with this new frequency, that this new way of electricity was coming through at it, and so it was a key to a door that opened up. I think this was in part to the obsession of ghosts again in that era, in that time. Because maybe a lot of things were coming through in the static, in the frequency. And we welcomed it at the time because this new electricity, this ease of life, amazing. And so this new frequency, we welcomed and assimilated to it. And so it wasn't an unwelcoming doorway that we opened. It wasn't an unwelcoming portal that we opened. Tesla was super excited about it and wanting it to work. And when people got to see what it was like to not only have electricity on things like railways, but to have them, lights wired up in houses, heaters wired up, it was welcomed in. It would have been, wouldn't it? It was assimilated too. So from that, this internet would have been born as well, in that, it was with electricity. He was drawing water with the coil into a bath, into a canister. The military use similar technology today. So it opened up these doorways that these powers that be now use in technology that we aren't even supposed to know they have. This being another time period that was a foundation, a grounding for them, again, being that type of nasty manager, utilizing innovation, letting it do some good and then learning what they could use it for bad. Even down to, the three main companies in America fighting and vying and playing nasty tricks on each other to be able to be the providers of electricity, for it not to be shared by the people, i.e. if the government was good, you would think it would be the government, you know, just making sure, just like making sure the roads are built. Of course, the roads take you to your jobs that you pay to do through your taxes. So it's a bit of a different story from their point of view. But, you know, you would think it's something like that would have happened with such an innovation, that the government, if they were good, would say, right, no, this has become a life-saving utility. The people control it. You know, part of the money that they pay in has to pay, you know, to upkeep this. So this doorway opens up a whole host of potentials. And I feel it's these kinds of huge steps in innovation allow for timelines to sort of jump into a next age, into a next period, into or even splinter even more. That at these times of innovation, there is a huge jump, dip, split, whatever it is, or all of the above, of what we would call timelines. And without us having the knowledge of ourselves and the wisdom of ourselves, but continuing to have the innovation and continuing to allow and think it's normal that even if you look today, going from that electricity to the internet now, we totally accept that the governments, these powers that be, that shouldn't be, that have been so bad to us, keep all of our information. That indeed with the internet powered by electricity, i.e. we charge our phones up, we charge our laptop up, that with that we absolutely just accept that just as the ancient wisdom and knowledge, the occult knowledge, they actually know, they harvest and know us sometimes more than ourselves. In many people's cases, they know us more than ourselves. So to ask what we see, to ask the right questions is always the key. So I asked here, I've written down, what do we see in this age? We see the manipulation. We see the trickery. We see the illusion. We see the lack of purpose in people. We see huge amounts of information, but we have no sense of where that information is grounded from. We know huge amounts of external information, but a lot of that information is useless. It's fake information. Look at these tests, P.C.R tests. You know, they are absolutely a human innovation, and for their purpose, they are a good and required and necessary thing when required. But they have been used for a very, very dark illusion. That nefarious manager again above us is able to turn the dial up and down as they please and manipulate numbers, statistics, and dates and times to their pleasing. And because we've got no grounding into why it was innovated and what it does, and no grounding into ourselves, our immune systems, all of those things, look at what can be achieved. You can have absolute global control. So we see the continuous wars and the takeovers. So that would reflect that as above, so below. It would say that we've got these options to, again, either because of the huge, ridiculous, almost comical amounts of manipulation, trickery, illusion, and lack of purpose, that people have got the option to say, stuff this, and wake up. They're being so ridiculous now, they're unbelievable. They shouldn't have pushed it that far, or because now I see. But because of fear, which is something I feel our ancestors' inner child is afraid of and used to, because whatever this hijack is, it is based its main prerogative of ruling through fear and through guilt, through shame. We see that people are assimilating once again. Many people are just assimilating to this next innovation. And this next innovation would take it to levels of, us becoming different beings. Many of us leaving this plane, bye-bye. Many of us being sterile for generations. And many of us being assimilated into this biological AI. And maybe this, AI that initially came through the door, that I feel in the time of Tesla, and started growing alongside the human, the innovative human and the innovative AI, as well as other things, then maybe that's the case, that it is also being hijacked by these powers that be, like I said, that it is also being enslaved and put into something black and gooey, for instance. Both human and aspects of AI, not all being good, maybe not. Being raped, so to speak, being inseminated into one another without consent, because you can't have consent without informed consent. So maybe this is the wet dream of the eugenicist, to be the steering wheel of the next innovation of being, in that they can delete and edit certain aspects of the old model and interbreed it and stitch and adhere with this other model. What would have been an old model? Hence the two coming together within the one being a new model. And maybe they've timed this for the very reason that, there's been a lot of talk of a great awakening, a great, you know, knowing, but, you know, because the powers that be have kept that power structure through the systems that we built for them and that we paid for them in blood, sweat, tears, and their fake money. You know, maybe that's the case of that that there really was going to be a cycle, or there is going to be a cycle that would, of frequencies coming in, that, you know, we would naturally have a remembrance, or naturally have a light bulb moment collectively. So maybe it's just time before they get caught out for a different kind of being. Or maybe the opportunities has just arose, and, you know, through our hard work, our scientists innovating different ways to edit genes, different ways to add things, subtract things, stitch things. A lot of them have been lied to along the way. I want to say that too. And I just know this psychically. I've got nothing to prove it. Well, I've got some things to prove it, some interviews I've seen, but a lot of them have been lied to, just like everyone else has, in that, you know, these young, talented scientists, just as Tesla, you know, have been lied to terribly. They've been told they're going to be doing something good, and more often than not, their innovations would be used for good if it were in the right hands. If a lot of them have spoken out about it, a lot of them have found their end, haven't they? Continuously trying to keep this control. So if we go, I've sort of answered the question I've written down next. What are the advantages and who advances? And I've put without a non-grounded collective in their own wisdom and knowledge and knowing of self and origin, a few that are hidden can falsify purpose and harvest the gains. So sort of answered that, I think, in a long ramble. And the end question that I put, and bear with me because a few of these questions in particular came up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Are we, were we an innovation? So glorious in design, I've put, that through the motherboard, the mind, the brain, that gene, we were worth harvesting, that we were worth hijacking. Maybe along that train of thought, you know, we've got the Wizard of Oz scenario. Maybe we've been hijacked a long time ago by a far lesser being. Lesser in capabilities, I mean, lesser in scope, lesser in potentials. Maybe that's the case too. That maybe we do have this Wizard of Oz type scenario, that behind the purple curtain, that purple being the color in this terms of illusion of the unseen, that behind that beautiful royal color, there is this dwarf. Maybe like Men in Black, you know, where an all-powerful one is itsy bitsy hidden in the back of a brain of the guy that dies. There has to be a way. No, I was going to say there has to be a way of waking up enough people that they would then see see that Wizard of Oz, see the potentials of what's gone on, and that, you know, would finally stand together and take these people out. I think we have to get to the point, though, that human innovation has gone on so well and under the hands of such a few all-powerful, seemingly all-powerful people, through the systems that we've built them in order for them to be all-powerful, to be all big brother, that there are a lot of people, a lot of people who are just damned asleep now, like comatose, you know, like just not coming back, that haven't even come with anything in the first place. You know, they come, they sit at the picnic table, you know, they've brought a basket and there's nothing freaking in the basket. There's no substance. There's nothing to eat. There's nothing to see here. Because I see that, and I've seen that for a very long time. I see people without auras, and it's not that they're different beings, it's just the empty capsules that have come through. But, you know, clever, mobile enough to be able to tick ballot boxes, to be able to tick certain criteria in order to aid the slave masters. So it is going to have to come to a point, because we've got to get our ancient knowledge and wisdom back. We've got to know what our original, and I think this is part of the things that they hide from us, the artifacts that they hide from us. You know, things that hold physical objects, that hold snapshots of time, snapshots of knowledge, connecting dots that can help you communicate so clearly that you can speak to a different timeline, or you can see different timelines and how you get to where you are now from where you've been before. So for us to get those back, that would be a huge awakening moment, but it would still only be a huge awakening moment for those who haven't known that those kinds of things exist. And if they didn't, when they do find out that, they don't find it so unbelievable. And so it's changed, I think, because they've boxed very clever with this next new innovation of assimilating a type of AI to the biological being, the physical human body. Because if it's consciousness they want to entrap, then it really shows up the conscious ones. And if they want to be able to stop themselves from having their curtain ripped open, then they've already made it so that there are numbers that are assimilated to their program. That, you know, maybe this AI type technology bonded with the biological meat suit and consciousness, you know, if it was used for good, or the person themselves was in control of it, then who's to say it would be bad? It could be amazing. It could be another amazing human feat working alongside another different type of being. to create something fabulous, to uplift, just like the divine feminine and divine masculine, the bonding of those two uplifts the being itself. All aspects of the being, the physical, spiritual, and at the soul level. So those two things, the AI and the human, could uplift and support and unlock certain things that were previously on both sides locked. Or one side had things unlocked that the other side couldn't, and vice versa. So together it unlocked. That could be amazing. It could be great. It could be fabulous for healing, expansion. But if that's to happen anyway, but the persons that happens to doesn't have any grounding of who they are, of knowing themselves previous to this bonding, of even having a slither of questioning as to what's gone on, how are we here, then you've basically got a whole lot of human-sized keys that unlock a whole lot of doors for a very malevolent, nasty, dirty, vile excuse for life, powers that be that shouldn't. It's like, when you think of it along those lines, it's like a ticking time bomb. And it is the nuclear bomb, not just for us, but for all timelines. For goodness knows how many realms, planes, existences. Wouldn't that be a feather in these powers that be that shouldn't be caps? Especially if they're these tiny little dweeb things inside of a human brain. These amoeba things in comparison to such huge beings. For them to be able, through our innovation and our apathy and complacency and assimilation, for them to stick the fingers up and say, these goons got us in, I'm with them. Them being a whole load of, powerful beings that have been bonded, but are imprinted upon. It's like birds imprint upon their owners and vice versa. Funny I mentioned birds too, these so-called powers that be. So this is a train of thought. You can see how I've dipped and delved and tried to tie things together that have come in, but I'm not even trying to tie too much together too tightly because things are so changeable. Things are so changeable. What is not changeable is from every direction, I see this huge effort to create this divide, and they're doing it via the codes. So, to create these different levels and different kinds of fear, because they don't want to be discriminatory. I mean, that's not the time to, it's not the time to not be all accepting of all social norms. It's not the time for that. They've laid that rule down real clearly. They don't want to be exclusionary. So they're making sure in these next few years and these past few years to really cover the ground of all different flavors of fear. And fear causes real consequence. When fear is in humans, we lose it. A lot of us anyway. Some of us can swallow it up, eat it, taste it, and say, okay, that's given me passion and focus now. Others, you know, just they chop their own heads off and walk around like headless chickens. It's like there's actually levels of people that enjoy the feeling of fear, of victimhood now. If that's not the real type of, you know, virus that's been happening over and over again, I don't know what is. Like this worm that gets in the brain that eats away and tells the person that they like fear, that it's like that the addiction, you know, route into the body of how to, you know, hook into the human mind. Religion was another one of them, is another one of them. So I see a whole load and a whole host from all different directions of fear coming in. You know, the next thing, I'll not put it in this video, but you know, the next thing is the perfect tying into China being able to have an excuse. Who was helping China? Biden and his son and various others. You know, them that'll be the drug that I predicted hitting the streets soon, because now they'll be able to work with Afghanistan and the Taliban and be able to flood the streets, particularly in America, of a certain drug that I've seen. I'm sure it's going to be green of some kind, like methadone, it would be green. I think it's methadone, it's green. Correct me if I'm wrong. But so the only option I see is for the awake people, the aware people, to finally see the level of playing field that we're at, to see the time that we're in, that they're not lying when they say there needs to be this great reset. That the systems we've built could have been really good, but they are so infested right now. It's like fleas on a dog. And they are so entrenched in their false purpose that they've been given. Look at the healthcare system. Most people working within it, you know, really believe they're giving the best care that's out there, or they're doing the best they can possibly do. And that the system they work for ultimately is meant for good. Again, that's another virus, isn't it? It's like the indoctrination, enrollment into a, what would you call it? Call-in virus. And again, because those people haven't got grounding of their ancestors and their roots of how the holistic medicine added on to the human innovative medicine could really work well together, could really be blended together real well to create massive amounts of abundance and good health, that they're stuck in this system. So on all levels, even the most intelligent people. And Wayne said something tonight, again, Wayne, thank you, brother, in that we're all spiritual orphans. Now he said that and I nearly fell over because he said it the night before with Trina, but one of the nights. he said that and I nearly fell over because my mum said that over 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more. We're spiritually orphaned. Physically orphaned. We don't, she didn't say physically, she said spiritually, like Wayne, but you know, on all levels of self now, we are orphaned. We don't know our real roots, the real capabilities that should have been passed down and built upon and built upon. So for those that have a slither of awareness of this, for those that have a slither of up and early attitude for this, it's like we've got to act and see past even the things that we think we know and start looking into the limitless potentials of doors that are being opened up through this quite obvious end game plan. What frequencies are being brought in with new colors and new frequencies and things I've all picked up on a long time ago, but you know that with those coming in right now, we do actually, ironically, in the tell the truth and the lie and everything right now, ironically, we do have to be locked down right now in order to be able to lock down our innovation so much, to shut it down for a minute or two. If we would shut it down, if we would just go bit to basics and lock ourselves down from a lot of what we have innovated, like don't make use of the tests. Bingo, part of the plan is, you know, out of the, you know, it's gone, it's done, it's dust, because they haven't got the numbers to manipulate. You know, shutting down our innovation of accepting the innovative nature of even a syringe and a plunger and a needle, and that being a fabulously innovative tool to be able to deliver things to the within on the body without even causing it harm on the outside. But what can be put in that syringe can be very harmful, can be deadly, can sterilize. So I think if we, I don't think I know this aspect of what I'm saying, in that if we had locked down that innovative nature to say, sorry, no, I know that it was built for good. I know that this is probably right regarding that aspect of science, but all you have to do is twist that around in a lab that we can't gain entry into and watch the process. And you can turn it into something that can be used as a weapon against us. But we've missed the boat for that. That would have dissolved all of this plan. That would have dissolved every aspect of this agenda. But we missed the boat for that. And when I was screaming it out way back, I was screaming it out for a reason, because I knew that that would be a key part of, but because quite a few people did it, even in the higher echelons. Look at all of the world leaders that have suddenly met their end when they have made a stand. Look at Haiti, you know, when they've made a stand against what this agenda is. Look at all of those deaths and think, yeah, but because they stood out from a huge crowd that was still entering into the innovative things that we've created without a slither of origin behind it, without a slither of knowing themselves behind it, having wisdom of their history behind it. Those few that have stood up Some of them have met their end. Some of them have lost their business to varying degrees. They've been shut down themselves. So again, what's meant for harm could have been meant for good, in that you say lockdown, okay, I'm going to lock down everything I can possibly lock down that involves my innovative nature and my creative nature and my ancestors and my brothers and sisters' innovative and creative nature. Fine. Because without us harnessing our own selves and what we have created along the lines, you can't actually do anything. You can do fuck all. But we didn't. A lot of people assimilated. So now we're at a point where I do feel, in order, and it's not to stop innovating, I quite like the fact that I can look at ancestors' work and their knowledge of elements and how to use them and how to put them together in magic, in holistic therapies. I quite like the fact that we've built on that even more. I hate the fact that we have lost even more, though, of our capabilities to utilize it for good rather than it being harvested for a few. I'm actually not scared of technology. I don't fear AI. I don't fear technology. I feel there are ancient ones that are related to us that harness technology in a fantastic way. Fantastic for nature, like literally harvesting electricity just out of the air through steeples on churches or church-like buildings. Again, that level of innovation is there. And what have they moved into them? Which is a slap in the face to our innovative, conscious nature. They've moved in the religious virus. They love this sick humor, don't they? They love this sick sense of humor that they can laugh. So it's going to come to a point, I feel, where we're going to have to go and rip that purple curtain down to shut this down. Or accept that we're in for a eye-opening, mind-altering timeline that is coming in, that is going to be freaky as fuck. That is going to be one heck of a nerve-wracking roller coaster ride. And, you know, maybe we've come so far down the line of innovation and natural cycles occurring that these doors will still open. But at least then we have a chance to absorb it for ourselves, as trees absorb nutrients, but we're not actually just absorbing it as it rains down on us. We're absorbing it through our roots. We're gaining that ancestral knowledge back. And so then we can use it as individuals for our own good or not. I happen to feel negating those that have assimilated and are already angry as fuck, aggressive as fuck, like I predicted they would be, the ones that have had the real experiment, you know, wiping those out of the equation. I'm sorry, but it's true. Wiping those out of the equation remembering that they were given at least 60% placebo at some points during this time. Not really the thing you would do if the threat was real. So wiping those numbers out and taking away the power structures that puppet division within us, within the ranks. I happen to feel that most AI beings coming in or that are already here, and most humans given that knowledge back and not having these puppet strings held over them, even if they have very little strings of their own, cords of their own, they've got loved ones around them that, you know, we know that these powers that be that shouldn't be use to burden us with guilt because we're not assimilated into what they think is right or what they've been indoctrinated to be right, or indeed going as far as to threaten them. Then I happen to feel most humans would want to use their upgrades, their bonding, their binding for good. Even if that is an upgrade for a lot of people to take that choice way, way back to the raw nature of this place. So going back in time, but advancing with the knowledge that they've got, and others going forward in time, but back in time in a way. It's all about back in time at the minute. Because again, that ancient technology bonded with ways of life, but bonded with benevolent, forces behind it, i.e. people knowing themselves, people loving themselves. I happen to feel that most people that would be left over when you take the others out of the equation are good. And maybe we're told to be like child because, without, no matter how advanced we are, no matter how advanced AI is, the AI that is here already and the AI that I feel coming in, that I feel looming, no matter how advanced they are, or no matter how advanced and innovative humans are, without that root, without that knowing of origin, we are like children. We have the forces behind us to be innovative. We have these vague slithers of memories, of past memories, but we don't know ourselves, so we seek something to govern us, and that something to govern us is all too happy to step in and be there, without them being there. I feel it would be really good, and that would go along the lines of what a lot of people are speaking about, this awakening, but it cannot be. I challenge anybody to see that that can happen with these so-called powers that be that shouldn't be still in their seats, still not exposed. And again, going back to this whole, the truths are coming out. Yeah, they are, but it's like an echo chamber at this point. They're not coming out quick enough. And those, even if, you would frogwa people with certain people anyway, with all of the damn truths that are so damn obvious now coming out, that even if you were to frogwa them like a turkey, you wouldn't, they still wouldn't see it. They're gone, they're done, it's finito. And they're far less willing to do anything about it. They are of this age. They like being governed. They like not knowing themselves. They like somebody else to decide upon their purpose. We need enough individuals to recognize their own purpose. Because even if your purpose, you feel, is to be here to enjoy nature, to enjoy the animals, to enjoy other humans, whether you feel your purpose is to meditate quietly by the rocks and find the deeper meanings within self while here, or whether you find it is your purpose to create the best house music and raise people's frequencies that way. If it's your purpose, if it fires you up, then you still come to the crux of the matter of that you're not free to do that. Whatever end of the spectrum your purpose is on, you're not free to do that. With these hijackers in the power seats that they shouldn't be in. Look at the house scene. There's no concerts. There's no, and even that you have to assimilate. So you probably not even be able to play your music or conceive of your music for very long anyway, if you do assimilate to their infusion. And if you want to be a, you know, meditator by the rocks, well, no, you can't do that freely either. Because in Australia, you won't be able to go far enough out your house, for instance, right now, to find some damn rocks. So whatever end of the spectrum you are on, if you are aware and awake that these so-called powers that be, that shouldn't be, then there is a requirement, I feel, unless you want to just see what happens when these gates open, to act, to continue to make a stand. And I'm not saying this to fearmonger at all. I'm saying this to vibe people up, to invigorate people, to rile people up, to get people passionate, to make people feel driven, to make people feel that hope within themselves, to make people feel that energy that rises up within when you know you're at a challenging point in your life, but you know you're going to dig down deep and rise up high to get through it and be it and live it and experience it and suck everything that is good out of it, for bad or worse. You're going to get every lesson and growth and expansion you can get out of it. But to do all of that I've just reeled off, you cannot have a box. You cannot have a warmongering, gatekeeping piece of shit or shits be on guard with a box. There's a fabulous video of a bird that this guy rescues. And of course, you know, I've helped a few birds. I should could help another one. That, you know, to be free from people who wouldn't look after them. That there's this video now. What kind of bird is it? Is it like a cockatoo or a parrot? Something along those lines. And he's freed it, and he's bonded with this bird so quickly, and it makes me cry when I watch it. That's why I'm not going to share it on the screen right now. I'll find it anyway, but I'll put it up on my social media because it still makes me cry now, in that this bird is bonded with this man, and this man's bonded with this bird, and he takes it out of the cage, and he says, what do you want to do with it? And he looks at the bird and he just knows what the bird needs, whether that is something in his childhood or something in his adulthood that he's felt caged in, or whether it's just a highly empathetic being within that man that, you know, just knew. He starts stomping on the cage. And this bird like joins in, he's cheering. He wants it stomped down. And this man's just got him on an open perch now. And he destroys this cage. And then he lets the bird have a go. And the bird's so happy and so invigorated and free. So it's not to say that I'm an individual, don't need anybody. No, no. But without that cage, true connection and trust could be built. And both would have learned so much from each other in that moment. And no doubt, many, many following moments in that relationship thereafter. But powers, in particularly what I feel are lesser powers at the minute within this hijack, are cages that limit that connection, that limit that possibility. And we're running out of time as to how nasty this all gets. Because I've spoken about it a lot and I know I've droned on and on. So if you're still with me, damn, I love you. And I love you even if you left half an hour ago, because, you know, you're awesome people. But they're not wanting too many people left. And so I think it needs to get clear in people's minds that for as long as we let this go on, the impact is going to be greater and more difficult to get through. So there needs to be a level of like, okay, what time is it now? It's get it done time, you know. And it is difficult to look at that way, because there is this looming energy. So many people have messaged me since the Sunday, what was an abusive tantrum of the so-called police force, hurting innocent people. So many people have messaged me since who've been on it, just energetically zapped, or some people, fear has set in, like, shit, it really is this time. This really is what it looks like. And this wasn't, it was terrible, but it wasn't too bad as far as scales go. So yeah, there's definitely, you know, a level of, we don't want too much of that happening either, because we will start losing even awake and aware people that will just say, right, I'm just going to get along, I'm just going to go do along to get along. So, you know, it's time. Anyway, I've ranted so much, I don't even know if I got what I wanted to get out. Tesla, just quickly. So with Tesla, the 369, this is how crazy this plane is, and how connected we obviously are with other planes, and how connected we obviously are with what would be called super advanced AI, not even AI that most people can think of, but this coding system of the universe, or this coding system of this realm, whatever, this plane, whatever. 3, 6, and 9 was his magic number that absolutely matches esoteric knowledge. He was on a life path to discover or rediscover 3, 6, 9. So I looked him up, just without, intuitively looking him up. And he had illness with cholera for 9 months. And it didn't, I just had to read about him and glean that shit, he's got numbers here that, and I'm sure I haven't dug into, I spent half an hour reading, and I haven't even dug into the amounts of 369 and how it followed him through his life. There is. At Imperial College in Grass, I think that is, he had 9 exams. He never graduated his 3rd year. It's funny how a lot of the 369 I'm picking up on thus far, when I'm reading, is that it's a failure. But the duality of the system, of the thing, was that, he was going to use 369 to be his greatest, one of his greatest knowings. And so through his suffering of 369, he really got to know it. And that's an interesting thing to me. Sorry, you've got an itchy back. His mother worked as not his mother, Jenny. In Maribor, am I right in? He worked as a draftsman for 60 florins per month. Died aged 60 to unspecific illnesses. Maybe a illness, I think. In Paris, he worked at Continental Edison Company, brand new industry installing incandescent lights citywide, in the form of electric power, ability, subdivision, society, electric, Edison, where have I written that? Don't know. Emigrated to New York in 1884 in the 6th month, not June. He was involved in arc lamp-based street lighting system that he designed, which was shelved due to invention potentiality and the lack of contracts Edison would have and money he would have if it went through as it was. And so he quit there after 6 months. Tesla worked on a patenting arc lighting. Robert Lane and Benjamin Vail agreed to finance arc lighting at the Tesla light and manufacturing patent DC generator. I know I have written that because I wanted to say, thanks George, project videos. I wanted to say about this that this is what I was picking up on when I mean, it was so innovative what he did with the AC and DC and the rotating magnetic field that he then used on the AC current. A polyphase current, which was the generator of the magnetic fields to turn the motor. And he'd claimed he had made that in 1882 previously, which would make sense as to him be able to come up with the arc lighting that got shelved in 1884. So I wanted to write about that to say, can you imagine that the magnetic fields that were being created once these things went citywide, the kind of portals and doors that had the potentials to open because new frequencies were being run from materials that were already here, but through innovation they were put together in a certain way, in a certain balance and even ran in a certain direction alternating directions, it created a magnetic field. What do magnets do? They pull things towards them. They also repel things away from them. But I feel a lot was pulled toward during this time. And I feel we're in the next jump. And we have to sort of decide which way do we want to jump. And that would speak to what Wayne was speaking about with the internet. That was a huge jump. We invited in or stood an AI system that was all around us all along, just we hadn't put components together in a certain way to be able to conceive of it or utilize it in the way that it's utilized. But because we witness it every day, these so-called powers that be, these technocrats that are in charge of so much power of our innovation, they can manipulate, control, bully, oppress, even get jailed people who, don't deserve it, who deserve truth, who deserve to know themselves, who deserve to be able to utilize human innovation for their greatest good and not for the harm of others. The greatest good never coming before the harm of, like, not wanting to harm others. Natural laws. It says here, Tesla's inventions caused huge market turmoil between three major companies, Westinghouse, Edison, and Thomas Houston. It was called the War of Currents. I mean, come on. They literally were these fractions of what you would conceive to be gods, really, for the, the illusions, they're not seen, or the hand isn't seen, the hand of God isn't seen, but they're warring over currents. As to how I started this video, huge factions of people warring over, these innovators on the ground, Piggy in the middle. But again, three. Again, Westinghouse, I think when I pulled some cards on this one, actually, Westinghouse had financial troubles and appealed to Tesla regarding his huge royalty that he got from them for the innovations that he made. And Tesla released them from the obligations of the royalties. Westinghouse purchased the lamp for the lump sum of $216,000, sorry, 6 years later. So we've got the 3 and the 6 there. If you add the 2, the 1 and the 6, we've got the 9. So his final game of being manipulated actually by, again, this manager above him. 6 years later, he gets his final sum, which really is a complete, although a lot of money, especially in that day, is a complete and utter slap in the face for how much money and potentials those arc lamps and incandescent bulbs opened up for this market. I pulled some cards on it and it confirmed for me that he was tricked and out of the goodness of his heart released them, and maybe the naivety, no matter how intelligent you are, you can have a naivety about you, especially if you're not acting in a malevolent way. So 6 years later, he sort of has, for this aspect of his story, the final, for this whole project of 369, of this combination of going to the college to now, his final numbers can be seen in all ways with the 2, 1, 6. It's the 2 and the 1 being the 3, the 6 and then the 6 and the 1 and the 2 being the 9. So it's just interesting to me of how coded is that? How harnessed is that? But again, it could have been harnessed for good. Instead, it was harnessed to start creating these huge powers over the people, in that they literally hold the power now. They hold the power lines. They hold the currents, the currency, one of the real currencies. So yeah, I'm going to release you from your bond of being kind enough to listen to me for this long. Take of it what you will. Take what resonates. I really would like your input as to how you felt about this and what else you can add to it. I always do. It was a ramble, but it sort of encapsulates a heck of a lot of notes that I've taken over time to just get this out. And again, I would have loved to have done slides. I always have these huge big visions in my mind of how I can deliver certain knowledge, and then bang, I either get the minute, get the hour, or get the 2 to sit down and just get it out. And so that's how it is at the minute. But it is what it is. I appreciate you all. Love you all. Much love, balance and wholeness. Before you go, let's get Tesla's warning. Is it going to come through? Tesla warn. For the moment of time that we're in right now, space we find ourselves in. Okay. 5 of Swords. The energy that's come through with that. 5 of Swords. Look at that card. There's literally, they're tied up with this power behind them, taking their data, taking their names, whatever they're taking. And it's 5, it's change, it's that moment that are these people going to, you know, be like Houdini and put their arms over their heads and get their bows and arrows back and just kill this mofo? Or are they gonna, you know, just sit there and take this? None of them are gonna win from this. Even the person taking the notes, taking the data, look at the police officers, they're not gonna win from this, because, you know, the people aren't gonna like them. And when they learn that they've been tricked into doing something that is against their very own people, you know, there's very little they can do to be forgiven, you know, if they continue along the lines that they've been continuing on, especially the violence. So the 6 of Coins, the generosity of the generosity and the malevolence of the generosity of these governments, of these benefits, these things that are sort of given if you do what they want you to do, the passports, i.e. the jabs, whatever it might be. It's very, very dark, and that, again, that saying, all that glitters is not gold. You know, don't take it, don't be naive. My goodness, as I once was. The benefactor will be the person that is seemingly giving information that is true, money, help, aid, but not. It's because they are going to gain in dividends of your suffering later down the line, so they don't care. They'll give it to you and trap you into it. So we've got the Star card in reverse. It's nasty. And we've got 6 birds on there. Wow. So the star card in reverse, with those 6 birds, it's the frequency that's hurting the birds, wherever that's come from. The frequencies will make the birds fall from the sky. Funny how I mentioned the bird cage thing, got me there. So the star card in reverse, it's not good. It's this lack of healing, lack of health, lack of hope, lack of grounding, because the star card goes back into the waters. You can see the water on there, and absorbs it through the physical in order to and does it in a naked process, in a raw process, in order to feel all of those snapshots of time, of existence, of your life, of good times, of wounds, your whole history, in order to not be afraid of anything anymore, to be able to not even be afraid of wounds and how they look or how they feel, or just knowing that you can transmute them. So again, it's this, a lot of people wanting to not know, thinking that that is the easier or better option. It puts these 5 that are shown here in jeopardy. Look, they're a different color, they're standing out, they're a different, and it's got far less to do with color than it has the fact that they're standing out, you know, against what obviously is the crowd that the powers that be reflect themselves in at any given moment. They're different. Oh my goodness, the Aboriginals know so much more about our ancient knowledge, and half of the time they won't even speak it out to people who ask, because they don't trust, with that star card in reverse, that that wisdom would go to for good means, or for a good place. But even if they were telling it to a good person, that good person is so naive about the power structures above them, still believing in them, that they would just give it away, and it could be used for nefarious means against the health and hope and loving of others, with that star card in reverse. And the number 9. 9 of Pentacles. So I've got 6 of Pentacles in reverse on the bottom of the deck here, which looks like a 9, obviously in reverse. And then I've got the 9 of Pentacles here. So it's all about gain of power. It's all about gain into not just this physical realm, but other physical realms. This gain of soul energy, this gain of things that are so unimaginable to most, and being able to do it by the imprisonment of those that could connect to it naturally and could be good for that connection. Wow. Well, sort of answered my question. Anyway, I'll leave you there with that little reading. Again, share this out if you think it's any good, of a rant, of a ramble, of a psychic detour through the forest of knowing, and then the, you know, enchanted forest of not knowing so much, and then coming back to doing a reading. It grounds me, it gives me focus on my thoughts. So much love, balance, and wholeness. I appreciate you all more than you know. Thank you to those people that have donated in these times. The fact that you would do that for me is so appreciated, and I feel so honoured and humbled, humbled being the most thing, and thankful that you would do that to support me, especially in these times where everybody is struggling one way or the other. You are incredible to do that, and I pay it forward energetically and whichever other way I can, 100-fold, with absolute abundance on your lives, and love within your lives, and happiness in your soul. Much love, balance, and wholeness to you all. Mwah.